Hey everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video, we'll be going through a unboxing and review of Deluxe class Megatron. And this version of Megatron is from Transformers Earthspark, and more specifically, part of the Build-A-Figure subline, the figure being Mandroid. And yeah, continuing on with a bit of Earthspark figures to just clean up some of the backlog. So previously with some of the Earthspark stuff, I was looking at the Warrior class figures, which feel free to check out the videos. Definitely a very mixed bag, to say the least. Moving into the Deluxe classes, I'm hoping it's less of a mixed bag, but I have noticed between Megatron, Twitch, and Bumblebee, there is a wide variation between number of transformation steps. Not to suggest that they make a figure, but sometimes it can be an indicator. Anyway, enough rambling. Front of the packaging for Megatron. So we do get to see Megatron through the plasticless window. A nice CGI shot of Megatron here. And obviously the little Build-A-Figure of Dr. Meridian, I suspect, being Mandroid. And Megatron will have his humanoid arm. In terms of the back of the packaging, Megatron in his robot mode, his alternate mode, which seems somewhat inspired by the Transformers animated Megatron. Obviously, still a completely different type of alt mode, but very interesting take. 11 steps transformation. And then just a bit more about the Build-A-Figure subline. So I've got the first three figures. Basically waiting on the others. Hopefully they all come out. Time will tell. Okay, so now that that's been done, I'll open up the packaging and we can have a better look at Megatron and all the other inclusions. And with Megatron out of his packaging, so we have Megatron, and I have attached his fusion cannon. We have manual, which is to be expected, and the Build-A-Figure arm for Mandroid. So we'll have a look at that later on, and we'll look at Megatron later on as well. In terms of the manual, so we do have a quick step showing how to equip his cannon. It can either be on his forearm, as we're used to seeing, but he can also equip it in his hand. As for transformation, so here are the first 7 steps, which is a bit scary given that he only has 11. Followed by the final steps, and apparently his cannon can separate and attach into his vehicle mode. I did not know that, but that is super cool. And then we do have a quick little diagram for Mandroid's arm. So that was the manual. I will probably use it later on. Actually, before we do that, so the arm for Mandroid, obviously not much to see. It is just a straight arm. It will obviously have a bit of a ball socket to attach to in terms of the main body, and will allow some level of movement, but until I complete the body, I won't spend too much time on this random arm, which actually looks like it could potentially hold things as well. But there you go, that's part of the Build-A-Figure. Okay, main event, Megatron. First things first, can you stand? The answer is yes. So here we have Deluxe class Megatron. Megatron from the front, the side, the back, the other side. Granted, the cannon is also there. And just a bit of a close-up of Megatron. Now, in terms of colors, so Megatron actually is still sporting his very traditional colors. So he has the silver grey coloring happening with some of the darker legs. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a very dark grey or a black. although it's visible in certain other areas, it's weapon included. And we also have bits of red trimming throughout the body, including his eyes. And then on top of that, there is bits of silver. So color-wise, still very iconic Megatron, which is good. Even though within Earthspark, Megatron has taken on a different approach to things. Now, before I get too far, now I'm actually quite surprised how his back has very little kibble. Although the rotators, question mark, part of his alt mode is there, but it's potentially not too bad. They're smaller than I thought. I actually thought they'd be a bit bigger. So that may or may not be too intrusive later down the track. Legs are a bit hollow, but I think that's okay because I think the legs do fold into the body for the transformation. Okay, now we've had a quick look at Megatron. We've had a quick talk about your colours. Still been very iconic Megatron, and I will admit, it does still look very iconic Megatron. Articulation. So your head will definitely have a bit of a tilt up, which is always good. Be able to move left to right, which is good. I don't think you can do a full 360, just given how some of your neck recess works. But that's okay, I don't think you need to do that. The lefting and the righting with the head tilt is good enough. Still getting used to that type of Megatron expression because he actually looks happy, which is different. As for the arm, now I'm going to use his non-cannon arm, so the arm will be able to do a full 360 at the shoulder. Will only go out so far, which is surprising. Obviously, it can still go front and back, given that is a ball socket there. But yes, I will admit, only being able to go out that much to the side is different. Try anymore, and you will do exactly what I did and pop his whole arm off. Okay, so what else do we have? So we do have a standard elbow in there. It is a ball socket, so the good news is it's at least the standard elbow bend of 90 degrees, and it will allow rotation as well. But because of this section of the alt mode armor coming through, it will probably look a bit on the flimsy side if you do that. Other than that, I don't believe there's too much more. I mean, there's potentially some movement here with the arm, but I think that's probably more due to the transformation and not actual articulation for the arm, which is okay. Since I'm by the arms, there's his usual cannon, which we now know is two halves put together. So that's the usual mounted on his forearm as we're used to seeing, but at the same time we can take this off and there will be a peg there and he can hold it as if it was more like a traditional handheld weapon. Watch me struggle trying to put that into his hand. There we go. Definitely not too bad, but because of the size of it, it does impede that actual elbow joint. So you're basically forced to doing a full extension of the arm, which is okay, but I think Megatron being Megatron, this is still better on the side of his arm, which is good because obviously you can now use the elbow bend. So that was the arms. There is no waist rotation whatsoever. We do have these little small side skirting on ball sockets, so they will be able to freely move around. Why you would need to do that is anyone's guess. Just move the arms out. Make it look like Megatron's trying to give someone a bear hug. In terms of the leg splits, and I did lift up the skirting to try and facilitate this, Megatron can pretty much do a full leg split. So with that being said, he also does have a bit of a black back skirting, which I've just lifted up and detabbed. So the leg can go all the way to the front, and because of what I did with the back skirt, it can go all the way to the back. Now with the back skirt normally down, you lose that whole back movement completely. We will have 360 here at the very upper thigh, which is good. And obviously this being a little ball socket at the hip does help with some of that articulation we've already seen. Raising the leg, we do have a decent knee bend, and I think that's also partly facilitated by the fact that the base of the leg is empty. So you can do a very impressive knee bend there, but it will only go backwards. You won't be able to do the knee forwards. In terms of the feet, there will be some side to side here, which is good. The front foot can move up and down, I guess. But I'm definitely glad about some of that side to side. But that's about it. So it's not, unfortunately, it's not on a ball socket or anything. You can actually just see it's a bit on a hinge. So a good thing potentially with some of that side to side for posing opportunities, which is always a good thing. So now that we've had a look at the articulation for Deluxe class Megatron, which actually wasn't too bad. There's enough there. There's definitely been more in other Deluxe classes, but at the same time, given that I started off with some of the Warrior classes, this isn't too bad at all. Okay, time to do the 11 steps of transformation, have a look at Megatron's alt mode, and have a quick chat about the transformation process itself, and offer some final thoughts. And with Megatron now in his alt mode, starting with the transformation first, that was actually surprisingly quite fun. Yes, it was 11 steps, so it's not overly complicated, but I actually thought it worked quite well. And added to that, everything does tab in very, very, very nicely. So it actually does feel like a relatively secure alt mode. So transformation wise, I was very impressed, and even with the addition of his two parts of his fusion cannon into the alt mode. Obviously it's still a bit basic in look and design, but especially after seeing Skywarp in Elite 1 from the Warrior class, this was a nice change of pace. So transformation, I quite enjoyed. As for the alt mode, so top of the alt mode, I'm doing this differently, I know. Bottom of the alt mode, yes, it's a little bit dirty, but that's okay. Front of the alt mode, the side, the back, the other side, and a bit of a angled look. Won't talk about the colours because obviously the colours don't magically change between alt modes, but we do see a bit more of this metallic blue here for where I suspect would be the cockpit. Otherwise we still have the greys, the silver metallics and stuff like that coming through. In terms of articulation, not too much articulation. We do have the little blades spin quite nicely, obviously independent, but that's not too bad at all. Otherwise everything is very much fixed in place. So we've had a quick look at the actual alt mode itself. We've had a look at the limited articulation. What else? Colors we've looked at. Overall, it actually isn't too bad at all. I won't spend too much time talking about it because I will save some of that for the actual final thoughts. But yes, I will admit I'm pleasantly surprised. And I actually am glad that I continued with my decision to start off with Megatron. So, Megatron, we'll just put you over there. Bring your manual back, and we'll just bring this random arm back for the old Build-A-Figure bits. Final thoughts for Deluxe class Megatron, starting with the robot mode. There's been a little bit of a hit to articulation in certain places. arms being a good example. Some of it may have been mitigated by more of these ball socket joints and some of the additional articulation within the legs. Time will tell. So at this point of making this recording, it's well ahead of the actual short, which is usually when I find out the good and the bad. So articulation still looks promising, but he has taken a bit of a hit. Visual aesthetic and everything, definitely not too bad. I'm definitely glad they've re-equipped him with a fusion cannon that can be done as both handheld and a forearm weapon. Personally, I think it's better as a forearm weapon. However, everyone has their own tastes. Nonetheless, glad that is versatility there. The kibble is fairly minor. It's not too intrusive, and even with those blades being the size that they are, it wasn't too bad at all. Like, I didn't feel I was stumbling a lot, and I've stumbled on other deluxe classes with even worse kibble. So from a robot perspective, definitely not too bad. Colors are nice, aesthetic is nice, and I think there's still enough playability there to enjoy his robot mode. Transformation, as I mentioned before, I quite enjoyed it. It is intuitive, it does tab very nicely, and yeah, I didn't actually spend too much time doing it, which in itself was a very nice welcome relief. So 11 steps may seem a bit simple and not overly challenging, but it's intuitive, quite seamless, and as I said, the parts and everything do tab in quite nicely. Even the side skirting actually has a little bit of tabbing as well to keep it in position. So overall, I quite like the transformation. Alt mode visually does look very nice, and I don't know if it was an intentional design to do this particular alt mode, because the last time we saw something similar was Transformers animated, and I did quite like the design for Earth mode Megatron, because obviously he had bits of a Cybertronian mode. Obviously, this being a deluxe class figure, it lacks some articulation within the alt mode. It would have actually been nice to move the rotators up and down a bit more. But at the same time, it is the Build-A-Figure range. I think they do make some allowances because of some of the extra novelty to obviously not fully deck out these figures. Plus, at the end of the day, he's not a Studio Series figure, so take what you get. But I do quite like the Ultimate. It does look very nice. And as I said, transformation does have it come together very nicely. Now, being a Build-A-Figure, he does have the extra arm. Not much I can say other than it's an arm. As time goes on, hopefully I will be able to do a bit of a quick review of the completed Build-A-Figure of Mandroid. So it will be nice to have all these deluxe class figures culminate into a additional deluxe size, scale, whatever figure as well, even though it won't be a Transformer. It's just something nice to have. So to wrap things up with Megatron, I quite enjoyed this figure. I think it definitely will work well with Warrior class Optimus, and I do believe there is a deluxe class Optimus on the way as well, so no doubt that will pair very nicely. Playability is nice, the visual aesthetic is nice, so if this incarnation of Megatron has actually tickled your fancy, I would say from a figure perspective, it supports it very well. I do need to actually watch Earthspark a bit more. I know the choice of voice actor is obviously very interesting. I have seen bits and pieces of his voice dialogue, so it's obviously a very different take on Megatron, as is the character and mentality for the show, but calling me very interested now that I've actually had a chance to look at this figure of Megatron. I'll leave the review side of things there. I don't think there's too much more to add in, other than if you find him, and I do actually see him being a bit of a shelf warmer, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I would say grab him. If he shelf forms any longer and goes on sale price, I'm tempted to grab a second one so I don't have to worry about transforming between both modes, because I do actually like the look of his alt mode. Probably me doing a me thing, but there you go. So yes, that'll bring us to the end of the unboxing and review of Deluxe Class Megatron as part of the Build-A-Figure subline for Earthspark. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel and do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account. Link is in the description below. And there'll also be a short of Megatron released in parallel with this to just supplement some of the things that aren't necessarily done and covered within this video. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video. There are 2 more Deluxe classes to look at, Bumblebee and Twitch, so they'll come out in the upcoming days. Until the next time, see ya.